Thank you so much for organizing and for being here. It's been really invigorating to hear everybody's thoughts, and I'm really looking forward to today. For the next half hour, I think I wrote a lot of reference points in the introduction, but I'm going to try to go through those a little bit quickly. And I'll show some videos, and the last thing will be trying something out, a singing game. I think we need a little bit more space to line up, so maybe in the hallway. That's okay?
You tell now?
No, at the end.
Okay,
yeah. At the end, we go outside. So today, I guess most of this music exists where the material of it is really the social context. So sometimes that's the urban landscape or a deserted urban landscape. And sometimes that's really just the relationships between the people in a space. These are just a few reference points. I guess I'm sure you all know Walter Benjamin better than I do, but he talks a lot about flânerie as a kind of strolling through a space, and this idea of slowing things down in order to experience it in a new way is kind of relevant to some of the pieces today. There's one sentence in the arcades where he talks about the rage for pet tortoises in the mid-19th century. So people are just kind of walking through, and tortoises, I assume, would be more difficult to train than other pets that are popular today. So that, you kind of wander around guided by something that's experiencing life at a different time and kind of spatial scale. I guess the relevant part of this would be just the idea of studying the city, and in order to disorient yourself and to experience it in a new way, to kind of distance yourself from your everyday experience. And also, I guess, the sense of a journey being unplanned and discovering things through the lack of planning. Ben Patterson's tours from 1963, there are so many walking pieces, but this one I liked because the version that I heard was people came to a concert and then they were blindfolded and divided into two groups, which I think is the most sinister beginning of a piece that I've heard. And then I think they ground fresh coffee, and then everybody went on a blindfolded tour with your hand on the shoulder. So he has another one where he sets loose these ants on a sheet of paper and then takes a picture. So I thought it was a nice continuation of the tortoises. Max Neuhaus and lots of other people have gone through listening walks, experiencing the city. I guess on the first one in 1966, they listened. There's a power plant. They crossed a bridge. They heard some Puerto Rican people, and then they ended up at his percussion studio, where he played a sort of concert. Janet Cardiff's audio walks. This is a picture of a video walk, but they're relevant in that it's sort of an imaginary landscape superimposed onto the real one that you're experiencing. So they're sort of audio guides in which she's recorded the sounds of the environment along with her voice, narrating this kind of detective fiction or some kind of noir story. And there are a lot of these in different places. But I think they're all very psychological, which is a little bit different from hearing it without the soundtrack. These I'm sure you're familiar with. So everybody's got special headphones that have sensitized coils to experience electromagnetic induction, and so you find this sort of secret landscape in your regular urban environment. All of the light fixtures and people's cell phones and ATM machines are very noisy, but just all of your regular everyday activities you experience in a newly musical way that's not necessarily predictable. So now we move to the social context as the relationship between people. This piece, I think there's this regimented set of rules you see in the cards on the left, but I think there's a special mode that's maybe more relevant, which is the guerrilla mode, where you can kind of put on a hat and then throw away all the rules and lead your own miniature revolt using the rules of the game. And Christian Wolff, of course, I chose this piece because the language is so distilled, since you're working with single tones, that you can really hear how people are listening and the ways in which their decisions depend on one another. Like you can hear the relationship between people, I think, in a very pure kind of way. So this is the instrument that I've played for maybe over a decade now. It's the main instrument that I play in public now, even though it's not an instrument that was meant to be played in public. It's the guqing, which is the 7-string Chinese zither, and it's an instrument for self-cultivation and not for performance. So the sound, traditionally, the strings are silk and it's very quiet, so you play to kind of still your spirit and to bring yourself into harmony with nature. If there are other people listening, traditionally it would be a small group of people, and there's a lot of disappearance of the sound. Like the silk strings don't ring for very long, and so often if there's a long tone, you'll still be moving without plucking as part of the traditional repertoire. And that sound that disappears is supposed to continue in the imagination of the educated listener. There's lots of Taoist and Confucian lore and a lot of mythology around the instrument. But one of the most famous stories is of Boya and Zhongziqi. So this is like a very famous and very skilled player, and his ideal listener was a woodcutter. So one day he was just kind of playing in nature, and Zhongziqi kind of came across him, and when he was thinking about the flowing waters, then Zhongziqi would say, he would identify that, and when he was thinking of high mountains, then Zhongziqi would know that too. And so he left, and Zhongziqi passed away, and so he broke the instrument and never played again. So in this model, the music, the primacy is not in the sound, but really in the listening, and listening as a way of tracing out the relationship between people. And this relationship is really created in the act of listening. So that's sort of the basis of a lot of the pieces that I'll be showing today. This is one more kind of introductory concept. Wu Wei is action without action. Actually, yesterday, the story about water flowing and kind of taking the shape of whatever it runs into, flowing around stones and things like that. That's the quintessential story to illustrate how this works. So it's sort of the way that nature operates on its own, and things come into themselves. This is a painting by Guo Xi. There are lots of stories of people going and disappearing into nature and to play this instrument, so that they can kind of leave people behind. But the question for me is, where would nature be? I live in LA, so this is a project I did with an electroacoustic musician, Ambuscus. We played the kind of electronic version of the instrument in different spaces around Beijing. This is outside of a public restroom where the waters will be flowing, kind of in reference to, this is on the Great Wall outside of the city. So there are some natural spaces and other urban spaces. There are high mountains inside the city, where mostly we were ignored and sometimes listened to for a small amount of time. This is a piece that's sort of an homage to Lamont Young and Alvin Lucier, and trying to draw a straight line. I traced 2 paths through an abandoned house outside of Hangzhou, which is where I was living for a year, and I used pieces of glass. So one path was visual, and the glass went from the ground floor up to the ceiling, and the second path was oral. So I was trying to navigate real performance took much longer and is much more boring than all of these videos that I'm playing are excerpts of much longer pieces. So the real experience of it, there's a lot more space. So this is a sort of fictional documentary where I invited, I was just talking to people in parks and parking lots in China and in California about how they imagined the other space. So just asking for participating by inviting people to speak directly. This is the beginning. Nope.
树会很高，然后一年四季都绿绿的，然后白色的人很多。
I imagine it like you walk and there are like just little like stands where you can like buy fish, yeah, food and like sushi and stuff like that.
It's just like New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine like being really, really busy. It's all crowded.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. Man. Yeah.
这一天也看不着人，在那外面数能天过几个人，一上午只过9个人。
我待了16天，就碰到一个老头儿牵了一个狗，morning就这么一下，没有见到人。
Cities are huge. They're developed. I was impressed by the construction that's going on. Everywhere you see, there's those booms that are used to make buildings. You know, they're everywhere. You know, and I remember coming out here in '83. This was kind of like that.
美国我跟你讲，公共秩序很好，公共卫生很好。当然他们都是有私家车的，就是没有私家车，有时万一要碰到排队，也没有个人挤来挤去，很礼貌。他从小他就培养了，没有说哎呦很小的我小便随便找。
I imagine life like in a lot of villagers and stuff, and there's like farmers. There's some engineers too.
枪是每个人都有的，
他们管的
高兴了啪给你一枪。
他们能管好自己的，
他们过了没有？
他们自己过了。
什么校园里啪。
我要我中国发枪的话，13亿嘛，那比落雨的嘞。
啪。
他们能管好自己的，他们过了没有？他们自己过了。
什么校园里啪。
So I guess I should say the ensemble was Now Here Ensemble, which is from California, and they were doing a tour throughout California. So the commission was to make a piece for them, and so the music that you heard was sometimes scored fully, but sometimes games responding to what they're hearing in the video. I think that's kind of clear. So this is a series of pieces for Supermarket, and this is sort of where they started. Above is on the left is a picture of the guqing, and I transcribed the tuning process, the order of the strings and the relative placement in terms of where the harmonics are onto a grid. It's a sort of variable. It can be arranged for any kind of grid in the supermarket. And I think in the video, it's somebody sorting through the pasta sauce aisle, and he's tuning for corn syrup, like percentage. Or I just wanted to talk a little bit more about supermarkets. This is from the George Romero. I think when I was living in San Diego without a car in Southern California, there aren't a lot of places you can go. And so when I was looking for nature, this was the one place that I went every week. And I don't know if this is as common in Europe, but there's the supermarket across from school is this kind of 24-hour paradise that has everything that you would ever need. It's not just food. They sell like furniture and clothing, and at some point there was a player piano inside. It's really like if there was an apocalypse, you could survive for maybe a year or something just on it's really a world within a world. And so I was thinking a lot about the environment and the music and just how everything is sort of made easy for you, that everything kind of happens without effort. And so it really is a kind of nature unto itself. So these are a few more recent, this is from Kopavor, Bonus in Iceland. They're listening to the freezers.
Super pretzels, soft pretzels, Tony's deep dish, French bread, pizza, French bread, blueberries, mixed fruit, Stouffer's lasagna, and Texas veggie burger, Morningstar bacon strips.
So we didn't really announce that it was going to happen to the supermarket, and lots of people have asked if they protested. It was at night, I think, on a Friday or Saturday, so that it wasn't very full, and we put everything back, of course. But I think at the end, somebody asked one of the aisle clerks what's going on, just to kind of provoke them or see what their perspective was. And he said, I don't know, but as long as they're shopping, we're not going to do anything. So it's sort of everything returns to capitalism. These are human wind chimes, which are nature sprites made of everyday detritus that are kind of arranged in sonorous ways. There's a site-specific score for each version of this piece, reacting to different environmental cues wherever they are. So they're just sort of trekking through their space in search of nature, and they have different games for interacting with the environment and each other. This is from MoMA Chicago last year. And then I have a video of from the street in LA, and then an office building in La Jolla. And so I think in all of these, the space is as important as what people are doing in it. And I think the first one especially, you can hear they kind of disappear into the traffic. This is with less materials. It's people orbiting one another in a model world, carrying small blinking lights, and kind of circling each other based on their rates of blinking. So this is the one that we do. I guess I'll read out the instructions here, or you can read out the instructions. It's so small here. Basically, it's kind of arranging ourselves into small lines. The first part is small lines, the second part is one big line. Everybody sings a tone, and you look for where your tone is in relation to the other ones, and you order them from one side going up. So this is for small groups, and then this is for one big group, gradually getting louder. And you can kind of drop out and talk about things that you've carried into the country if you decide to stop singing. Is that relatively clear? Back to the first one.
Like one more line?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Oh, thanks.
With the two tones we sing, we walk to the right side of the space.
Sing. You sing on the one tone per syllable. So the second syllable, ing, you switch a pitch and you have to find a new place. But let's just try bring as a practice. So can we kind of come together? Right. Bring. It's not going to be perfect. You don't actually have this much time. I think that there needs to be more hustle. Let's try ing, one breath. If you run out, then just find your place and stick to it. And if you can hold it, then figure out where you are with the people who are remaining. All right?
One breath and stop.
Yeah, but take a big breath and try to move a little faster. Right? Ing, ing. This is less meditative. You really have to get there. Try to win it, right? Should we do a little louder? Another bringing? What? High is on that end. So you know when you start. You can guess. Oh, sorry. Well, I didn't say. High is on that and low is on this end. So, yeah. Louder and more urgent. So I'm not going to cue anymore. Try to cue amongst yourselves. We'll try to just keep going. It's going to get louder and louder and louder until it's as loud. You're just sort of yelling it, or as loud as you can go. And if you decide to drop out, you can turn around and name some things that you have brought into two countries when traveling. Does any clarification needed?
So we take a new note?
Yes. Bring and ing are different notes.
And we do it again and again, just once. Again and again.
Until two people are left. And it's going to get louder. All right, it has to get louder and louder.
And when do we get louder? What?
Yeah. But hopefully not all at once.
So we have two tones, huh?
Yeah.
And we change place.
Yeah, most likely, unless they're a very similar tone. Yeah. Okay, let's just try. Do you
Thank you so much.